Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be bringing you my part 2 of the Try a Chapter tag. Now in this version of this tag, I'll be picking the first book in new series, so I have 5 different series that I want to try and get to this summer and see which one I'm going to end up probably binging through this summer. Now the whole kind of rules that I've placed for myself is that they have to be series that are already completed, and I have to own all of the books in that series, so that way if I am motivated to binge through the series, I am able to. I don't have to wait for new books in the series to come out later on, or I don't have to go out and buy new books in the series. I own all of the books in these series and I can binge through them this summer if I want to. So the first series that I have is the Seven Realms series by Sidney Williams Chima. I have the 4 books in this one, the first one being The Demon King, and I've heard really good things about Sidney Williams Chima and her writing and everything, but I've never actually read anything by her, so I'm super excited. I just got this series for Christmas, so we will see what happens with this one, because I have, like I said, heard really good things about this series and about Sidney Williams Chima's writing and everything. The second series I have chosen is the Half Bad series by Sally Green. This is a YA kind of darker fantasy. I think he's half bad witch and half light witch, and his dad is like a black witch or something. I don't know. I've heard kind of mixed things about it, but this one, I feel like it's going to be one that's fairly quick to get through, so that's why I threw it on this list, and I've had all the books in the series for a while now, so I just want to see if this is going to be something interesting enough for me to pick. And the next series I have chosen for this is the Fifth Wave series by Rick Yancey. I've heard mixed things about this one. I've heard amazing things about this first one, and then the second book, I've heard just like terrible things across the board. But then I've heard, I think Trina from Between Chapters mentioned that binging through the entire series and getting kind of the full story arc like back to back is a little bit better and makes things more enjoyable. So that's why I threw it on this one, because I've had this one sitting on my shelf for the longest time, and I feel like if I can get through all 3 of them, maybe I can get that experience like Trina was talking about, how it's just better to read them all back to back to get a better understanding of the story arc and everything. So yeah, that's why I've put them here. This is a YA kind of sci-fi dystopian. I'm really excited. Aliens invading and that kind of thing. I like that kind of story, so we will see what happens with this one. Then the next series I have is a middle grade series, and that is The Search for Wandala by Toni Ditzer-Lizzie. This is about a girl named Ava 9, and I think she's on the search for something called Wandala. She doesn't know, I don't think she knows if Wandala is a person or a place or a thing, but she just knows that she has to find Wandala, whatever it may be. It's got like illustrations and stuff inside that's done by the author himself, and they're really cool, and I'm really excited to pick up this one and see if I enjoy it enough to binge it through this summer, because yeah, I've been kind of in the mood for middle grade, and I've heard great things about this one. And yeah, we will see what happens with this one. And then the last book on this list is probably the longest one that's been sitting on my shelf. I've had this entire series on my shelf for probably like 2 years now, and that is the Pathfinder series by Orson Scott Card. I've heard very controversial things about this author. I know a lot of people here on BookTube don't like him for personal reasons and stuff, but I've heard good things about his actual books, and I've heard that he's really good at crafting an actual story. And I've heard kind of mixed things about this one, but I'm still really interested because this is a YA like time travel fantasy, and I've kind of been wanting to check something out that has to do with time travel. I know the main character can kind of like see different lines in history and kind of backtrack and move forward in time depending on what line he chooses. And like his father died, so he's trying to figure out why his father died and kind of what happened within that one. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. We will see what happens. Like I said, I know he's a little controversial here on BookTube and everything with like his personality and his personal views, but we will see what happens with his actual story and see if I actually end up enjoying it. So I will read the first chapter of each one of these books and come back to you guys with all of my thoughts and feelings and letting you guys know which one I'm actually going to end up continuing and probably binging through this summer. Okay, so I am back after reading the first chapters of these 5 books to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on these first chapters and everything, and let you guys know which one I'm actually going to continue on with this summer. So the first book that I ended up reading the first chapter for was The Search for Wandala by Toni Ditzer-Lizzie. This was a middle grade story about a girl named Ava 9, and it starts off at the beginning with her getting bitten by a snake and kind of introducing this world and kind of how things work and everything. So it's definitely more of a sci-fi vibe to it, with a lot of like technological advancements and robots and things, so it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed this world and everything, and the writing I thought was pretty decent. It wasn't anything that blew me away completely, but I did feel like Ava 9 felt a little bit immature, at least in this first chapter. Hopefully throughout the series she can kind of improve with her attitude and thing, but I felt like she felt a little immature, at least in this first one. It's probably not a series that I'm going to end up picking up this summer, but it is definitely a series that I'm definitely interested in because I did enjoy that sci-fi world and vibe that it had into it. So like I said, I'll probably leave this one for later on, but it is not going to be the one that I'm going to continue on reading this summer. Then after that, I picked up Half Bad by Sally Green. I had to end up reading like the first 4 chapters or so because they were so super short. But this was definitely really, really interesting. It starts off with one of the, I'm assuming he's one of the witches, and he's being captured or held prisoner by this other white witch who's kind of training him on how to do things, but he keeps trying to escape from the White Witch and everything. So it's really interesting. It's really cool. I really enjoyed the writing and kind of the darker, somewhat tone. The book is written in second person, which I wasn't expecting. It was really cool to have this in that second person. I really, really enjoyed, like I said, the theme and the vibe that was going on with this one. Then I picked up The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey and read this first chapter. I've seen the movie, so I kind of already know generally how the story goes and everything. I'm pretty sure they've changed things from the book to the movie either way, but I really enjoyed this first one. I enjoyed the chapter that I read where there was kind of like humor and stuff incorporated into it, which I wasn't expecting, so I really enjoyed that one. So we'll see about this one. Like I said, the chapter was really short, so they didn't really establish much, but I saw the movie, so I kind of know where things go. But yeah, this, if I'm in the mood for like an alien invasion adventure type thing, I'll pick this one up, but I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood for it in the summer. We will see what happens. But as of right now, this is going to be something that I'll probably leave for later on. And then I read the first chapter for Pathfinder by Orson Scott Card, and I really, really loved this first chapter. I really enjoyed the writing. It was different. It felt a little more mature for a YA, and it definitely pulled on your heartstrings. Like toward the end of this chapter, right at the end of this chapter, it just gets really, really emotional, and I really, really loved kind of the emotions that the author was able to kind of like portray within this first one, because the main character's father dies within the first chapter of this one, and it's not a spoiler, it's right on the synopsis. You know that his father dies. So it was definitely really emotional to have that happen right at the first chapter and everything. And he's now kind of thrust into this like new adventure of trying to figure out where he came from, going in search for his mother because he didn't really know that his mother was alive, and he has a sister that he didn't even know about. So I feel like this is going to be a really, really good fantasy adventure, kind of trying to figure out what's going on, where he came from, where his abilities came from, because he can see, like I mentioned earlier, he can see different paths and different people's paths, and not just people. He can see like plants and objects and things, and all of these different paths for all of the different objects, not just humans. So that was really interesting to see. So I'm really curious to see how this one plays out. This is definitely a strong contender. I didn't really know that I was going to enjoy this one this much. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it this much, but I really, really did. And then the last book that I read was The Demon King by Cindy Williams Chima. I read the first chapter of this one, really, really enjoyed this one. I felt like it was establishing a really good world and a really good story for the rest of this series, because this is a 4-book series, but I really enjoyed it. It definitely was very tense. Like you have this like clan that lives on the mountain, and then you have these wizards, and they're kind of like, they don't really get along, and there's this thing between the clan and the wizards, and you kind of get hints toward who people's true identities could be and everything, and I really enjoyed this one. The chapter was probably the longest one out of all of the ones that I read, but I really enjoyed where this kind of went and how things were established, so I'm curious to see where this goes. I don't know if I'm picking this one up. It's really iffy. Like, this was a really, really hard tag to do because I ended up enjoying most of these books that I read, so it's going to be a really, really tough call as to which one I end up picking up and binging throughout the summer. So, because I want to get to as many books as possible throughout the summer, throughout my vacation, I think I'm probably going to end up going with Half Bad by Sally Green, just because these books are shorter, and I feel like I'm going to get through these a lot quicker than I am at all of the other books, because the other books are a lot longer than this one. But I did really enjoy, like I said, I enjoyed this tone, I enjoyed where things were established. within these first couple of chapters and where things are going. I really enjoyed this writing style within second person, so I'm really curious to see where this goes. Like I said, I'm picking this one solely on the fact that it was shorter than the other ones in the series. I feel like is going to read a lot faster, and I can probably get through this one this summer more than I can with some of the other ones. But I did really love Demon King, and I really loved Pathfinder, so those two are definitely on my list of having to read a lot sooner than later, but we'll see what happens. I might leave Demon King for later on in the winter, and I might just end up picking up Pathfinder on audiobook. We'll see what happens, but this is probably going to be the one that I'm going to end up choosing and adding to my summer TBR to binge through this one throughout the summer, because I feel, like I said, this is going to be a quicker read, and I'm really interested to see kind of where things go. It definitely was very intriguing, these first couple of chapters. So yeah, guys, that is it for part 2 of Try a Chapter Tag. Comment down below and let me know if you guys have done this one, if you guys have read any of the books that I've chosen for this tag, and what your thoughts were on them. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.